Scorch the Fears, episode 16. Let's go. We got the amazing Munif Saza, the amazing Daniel Quijano. Munif, I don't even know if you need an introduction, but I'm going to try to introduce this guy. Literally just one of my best friends in Sub2 and real estate investing. He's a boy. He brought me so much value the first time I met him. He already knows the story, but I'm going to tell everybody else this too. Also, Daniel's here. He's my new co-host as well. He's also here. I want to introduce
by the way, there's some dude here as well. But
also,
anyways,
that guy
back to what we were talking about.
Right. I don't know why he's here. He got the StreamYard link for some freaking reason. But no, as I said the last time he was here, he's slowly turning into a co-host as whenever he can. But anywho, Munif, I'm going to start just by going with like the first time we ever met, right? Because you obviously remember this. You met, I feel like, a lot of people who were important to you the first time at the premiere, at the triple digit flip premiere for Pace and Jamil. I'm going to talk about ours because screw everybody else. It's my podcast. We met. I saw you. I was like, this guy seems cool. He seems like a cool guy. You were like, dude, let's get on a Zoom. Let's hop on. And I'm like, all right, for sure. Like, he seems like a cool dude. Let's see what we talk about. I don't even remember exactly what we talked about. I think we were kind of seeing how we could JV. And at the moment, I don't think we could see it that well. But but then you talked about business coaching. You were talking about your business coach. And in my head, it immediately clicked like, wow, that would be super goddamn useful to have somebody who's keeping on me and keeping me accountable 24/7. I'm like, dude, like, could I get his number? And you were like, yeah, man, like 100%. Here's his website. Here's his number. Make it, like, definitely become a client. I immediately signed up for it. You gave me a recommendation. You got me with the owner of the company as my coach, which is absolutely lit. Instead of like, I don't know if it would work with anybody else because he's actually a business owner, right? And we're business owners. The other people would have been like different goals that I don't even know what they do it for, like maybe losing 15 pounds or something. Like I don't even know. Well, like ours is like business problems. So, bro, I mean, just that one connection has literally transformed my entire business to this day and my entire life because it's more than business, as you probably know. Like I do all sorts of goals with him. So I just want to say thank you. So first off, just for that, like, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
So yeah, man, I just wanted to throw it out there. And he's going to come on the podcast in like,
I love Mike. Mike is amazing. Mike is so awesome.
Yeah. Dan, he's both of our, business coaches. He's a dope dude. If you want a business coach, I would 100,000%.
He's also Faisal's business coach.
And Faisal's. That was also true. He's also Faisal's business coach. So anywho, I just want to say thank you so much for that, bro, publicly, because I don't think I've done it publicly. I've done it privately like a bajillion times. But yeah, man. So starting it off with the classic Steve Trang question, how did you get into real estate?
Oh, this is a good question.
Pace tells this story all the time, but I've never heard you say it actually.
Do you want long, medium, or short?
I want you to start talking.
I will start talking.
The longer, the better.
Wink, wink. That's funny. I started, what got me into real estate was this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Classic.
And I bought that book. I read that book like literally like 2 months after I bought my first home.
Wow. Nice.
And
when was this? How long ago was this?
In 2018. Okay. So I bought my first home was a condo, 2018. And I was like not super happy with my life. I was like, I felt like I hit this wall in my career in cybersecurity. And it just like, it was really weird because like I was like making the most money I've ever made before. Because before my IT career, I was like I was like literally depressed, dude. I was living in my mom's basement. I like changed careers because I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I like didn't want to do that. I like did not want to do that, and I was like, I don't want to do this, mom and dad. And they were like really supportive. They're like, cool, like no problem. Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I have no clue, like, no idea. And they like literally let me like not do anything for like almost 2 years, and like left to my own devices. It was like not good. Like it was not good. I was like not productive. I was like one of those people. Like I just graduated. I was like literally a bum. I played a lot of video games because like I didn't know. I was like I just graduated, and I was just like had this existential crisis because I thought my whole life I was going to be a doctor. I shadowed doctors for like a couple of years. And I had this.
I'm gonna stop you because I like the long, but then I like going deep into the emotions. I don't even actually tell you.
Tell me,
yes, know this, but this whole podcast it's a mindset podcast, right? Like this isn't really a real estate one. That's why Mike's coming on. Is like it's more about getting through struggles to me.
Okay.
So go into that struggle more, right? Like what, like you had it been like your entire life you thought you were going to be a doctor, and then you were kind of like just not sure what to do. Like how were you dealing with that? Was it like kind of like doing it through video games and just like how do you say lost into it to like distract yourself?
That's exactly, bro. I like literally I have what's called like I think it's a avoidant attachment, like where like if there's a problem, you just don't want to like deal with it, right? Like some people react to emotional stress differently. Me, it's like nah, I want to like not worry about this. And for me, it was like, what am I going to do with my life? Like who am I as a person? Because like so much of my identity was like with this role. And what I did is I enjoyed playing video games with my friends, so I would do that, and I get like my distraction from that, right? And I did this for like almost like 18 months, man. And what happens is when you're distracted, when you're using like stimulation to distract yourself from really dealing with who you are, where you're going, what your core values are, your purpose. Let's call it your purpose. I'm very purpose oriented. Didn't know my purpose, so I had this giant gaping hole like in my soul because I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know myself, and I was filling it with stuff. And fortunately, thank God, it was just video games. I mean, there's stories where people
a lot of different things. I have friends who filled it with the classic, more like drugs and alcohol and things that actually destroy you.
Right. For me, my vice was video games, which was it's not as terrible as vices go. It's not the worst. And I do enjoy video. I love video games. I love them so much. I just use them as a distraction. But I was depressed, man. Like I was really I was not happy. I was sleeping like go to bed at like 6 a.m, 7 a.m, and wake up at like 5 p.m. And I would, like my family, like my mom and dad were so like good to me. Like my mom would have food ready for me. They just gave me space. I stayed in their bed. They were like so nice. I can't. Do
you think that was good or bad?
Really good.
You think so? Really, even if you were like I'm talking about, I'm just curious because like this is like an interesting thing. Daniel, are you a parent? Do you have any kids?
I have puppies. 5 of them.
You puppies. Okay. I was just curious. This is just something
I actually love this conversation, and I think you're going the opposite direction of where I was going, which I think is perfect.
What was it? Wait, all right, for sure. I want to. Okay. What was I about to say though with that? I was curious just because I've thought about this like with my family, because my family's kind of like yours, and we both ended up really good, which is like we both ended up in an amazing place. But I'm curious from your perspective, like why you think that might have worked versus what most people would think would be the good thing is like the parents being like, hey, dude, like get off your butt and do something. Like you can't be playing video games all the time. Like what do you think happened?
I think I needed. Sometimes I think people need space. I think sometimes people need to discover for themselves, you know, and sometimes people need guidance and a little handholding. So I think if I think about maybe I was 22, 23. It's okay. I can do this. It's okay. I'm 22, 23. I wasn't 30.
Right.
You know. So I think they saw the bigger picture.
Okay.
And
well, I
this
think
is
that's no. Please continue.
No. Please, I will.
Daniel, you have the right as a co-host to interrupt the guest at any time you feel like. Even when it is completely inopportune and rude as hell.
And rude.
Okay. You full permission.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Mission accomplished. No, but like I love what Munif is saying, right? Because I come from a completely different upbringing, right? Like I left the house when I was 17 and joined the military. Like my mom signed for me to join. And I knew for a fact that there wasn't a scenario where I was moving back home if things didn't work out. It just didn't exist. It's just not the way my family was, right? You're an adult, figure out how to do adult things, right? Sink or swim. And then if you don't swim, you'll figure it out, right? And so there was never a scenario in my life where I knew that going back home was an option if things didn't work out. And so it shaped my direction very distinctly, right? And so I've thought about this a lot because I've been the young man who was out in the world on his own from 17 and struggled and needed help. And knowing that there isn't somewhere to go back to, it shapes you in a way, right? Contrastly, potentially, than the way it shaped Munif. I think there's strengths and potential weaknesses to both sides of it. I think the true trick is knowing your child, the individual. But I think there is a lot to be said, right? Because I learned things that probably other people wouldn't have had to learn because I went through things other people maybe didn't go through. But I do think there is a lot to be said for that, just knowing that support system is there. I think it does something for us. And I think it's valuable.
It's just interesting to me because that what happened to you, but it obviously worked out because you're incredibly successful. It's interesting how most people, like the narrative, like the narrative that most people hear is like Daniel's story. It's like, yeah, I was out of the house, I was in the military, like that's why I got my determination because it was sink or swim, right? So I'm just saying it. I'm curious. It was the same question over again, and you answered it, where it's like sometimes you just need the space to recollect, even if it's 18 months, it sounds like.
Yes, until one day something happened. My parents, they loved and accepted me. They they gave me space, and I think it's called unconditional love, and so we wake up at 5 p.m. My mother would bring me food. One of my best friends graduated. His name is also Daniel.
Nice.
Daniel too. Yeah, Danny. We call him Danny. He graduated, and I wanted to go see him walk. And I went. I asked my dad for money. I had no money, nothing, and I didn't even have my own car. So I asked my dad for money, and said I felt always ashamed to ask my dad for money. I'm a grown man. I was asking. So I said, "Oh, Dad, can I have some money for gas to go see Danny graduate?" He said, "Yeah." He gave me a $20 bill, and I went to the car and I did the calculation, how far can I stretch this $20? It's a 90-minute drive each way. The tank was not completely empty. It was kind of empty. So I was like, okay, $5 in gas, $15. If we go to dinner, I can spend $7 or $8, and then I have some for tip. Okay, this is my budget. Literally for $20. I remember this just yesterday. And I drive, I make it. They walk, they do a dinner. And at dinner, I'm like looking at the menu. I see like a grilled cheese or something. And I'm like, this is my dinner. This is good. I'm having fun. I'm so happy Danny's graduated. And everyone orders a round of beer. And I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Beer.
Yeah. A lot. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough for this and a tip. I must tip. And so I said no. When they asked me, I said no. And there was this kid. He was like my age, you know, and he graduated like with them, or maybe a semester before them. And he had a job. He mentioned it to somebody else I overheard. He's making $60,000 a year. Can you imagine it, Jonah? $60,000 a year. I'm stretching a $20. I'm like, wow. And he goes, I don't even remember his name, Jonah. I just remember his face. He had the kindest face, curly hair. And I've seen him around, but I never learned his name. And he goes, hey, man, why aren't you getting a beer? And I don't know why, but I didn't lie to him. I told him the truth. I said, sorry, I ran out of money. I only have this little money. And he was so kind. He slaps me on the back. He's like, hey, this is a party. We're going to hang out. Don't worry, your beer's on me. Drink as much as you want. Here, I'll buy your beer. It's okay. And that changed me, man. I was just so depressed, you know? I was so depressed. I was just like, I'm like, what? Really? You do that for you? Yes, enjoy. He bought me my beer. I just that was like the best beer of my life, man. That tasted so good. And I thought, man, I want to do what he did. I want to do that. I want to give people what he gave me. Mm. So the next day I drove back. He'll never know this. I don't know his name. I never told him, but I will never forget him. And I told my dad the next morning, I said, Dad, I want to get a job. He said, okay. What do you want to do? I said, Dad, I know you're training for IT. You're doing boot camps. Because my dad, he had changed careers. And he was learning IT as well. He has his own struggles. We can get into that another day maybe. But he was like, I'm learning IT. I'm going to this IT boot camp here. And so I taught myself IT. And 6 months later, get a job.
Nice.
6 figures, $100,000 a year. And so to answer your question, how did I get into real estate? I have a 6-figure job. 3 years later, 3 years into this, I'm depressed again. I have all this money, but my lifestyle goes up and I want to buy things. I want to travel. I want to do cool things. And I can't, I'm stuck. It's like another ceiling. It's like, I must beg my manager for maybe an extra 5% a year. Like a $5,000 raise, right? Or a $10,000 raise. Jonah, this is a yearly raise. We can make it like this in one deal, right? And I didn't know that this was possible. I didn't know that there was this. I thought this was it. I thought like you work and you beg and they give you $10,000 for the year extra. And I read the book. I bought a house. I thought you buy these things. And then I read the book, and the book says, no, there's more to life. There's no ceiling, actually. This is an illusion. This is just it's not real. And a house for yourself is not the best investment. It's a liability. A house must generate you income. And it just changed everything, Jonah. So
if you are such a good storyteller, it's hard for me to want to interrupt anything you say because you're so good at it. I'm going to ask you about that in a little bit, but I just didn't even want to interrupt the story because I was getting enwrapped in it. You must feel that too, Daniel, right? Like his storytelling abilities are just
his voice, the way he just brings you in delicately.
Exactly. Like it's like almost like I'm getting entranced into something. Like, I know why you close sellers. It's like, wow, like, how could I not sell my house? I want to get back to something though. I really want to get into that moment, that switch, like for your head from where you're like, I want to, like, somebody bought me a beer, and the fact they were doing that and they don't even know me. What about that made you want to get a job? Exactly. Like, where's the connection there? Because I think at some point there'll be somebody watching this who's in a very similar place, and I want to know what was happening in your head that switched, and if that can be, I don't know if that can be vocalized.
Yeah, it can be.
That would be sick.
It's remember I told you I was lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? What my purpose is? I was lost. I wasn't even looking, you know. And the way he made me feel showed me who I wanted to be. Does that make sense?
It does. 100%.
This is what. So now I knew who I wanted to be.
You
had literally no idea, and then he gave you at least somewhat of an idea.
It was, I want to do this. This is the way he made me feel. He gave me such a gift. I can't just hold it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is like, he's a man. He's a human. He's probably somewhere doing something. He's probably sinning. He's probably lying, cheating, stealing. We all do this. We're humans. We sometimes do dark things. And yet at that moment, he was an angel.
Right.
You know, they say the angels, he's an angel. That moment, I met an angel.
Right.
So
isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how like those types of stuff can stick with people and you have even no idea that they have it? Like, I think that's one of the craziest parts of that story is that guy has literally no idea what that meant. Literally knew that it completely changed a person's life.
Well, so he will never know. He will never. I will never go seek him and tell him. I will never. He will never know.
You wouldn't be able to find him. Is why, right?
I can find him if I really wanted to. I can find him.
Okay.
I can find him. He's my friend's friend. Daniel is one of my closest friends. I can say, this guy. Who is this guy? Show me the yearbook. I can find him. But,
okay.
But there's no reason to. And Jonah. The thing is, anything good that comes out of my life, let's say I go and I make money and I give back, I help people, I do charities, let's say, all this. That is from his one act of kindness. Do you see that planted a seed? Can you see? It's incredible that one act of kindness can change the trajectory of someone else's life, and then things they do, it kind of stemmed from what you did. This is humanity. This is the human spirit to me. So when we walk around and spread seeds of kindness, we have no idea what we're doing. I love this. This is the meaning of life to me.
That's so beautiful, dude. Like that is to me, and I bet Daniel and you agree, is like the reason why Sub 2 is so enthralling and why like people are like how does Pace have a cult-like following? It's because there are constantly those moments all the time. That's how he does it, is he's able to make that happen with like everyone, I think. I think if you're at least somewhat involved in Sub 2, you have some sort of moment like that. So yeah, man, I got lost in just like looking at you with the story, to be honest. But okay, I just really wanted to explore that moment because that's a key moment in your story, right? Like that's the moment that's brought you to everything that you are here. So I'm gonna get you back on track. Bought a condo. This is in Maryland, right?
DC.
DC.
Like right next to DC. It's technically in Virginia, but yes, DC.
Okay. So own a condo, have a job, get depressed again.
Yes.
Why do you think you got depressed again?
That's a good question. It was the same every day, man. The same thing every day. It was like, go to work, come back. What do I do? I just play video games and watch TV, and I go to sleep, and I go to work. I come back. I want to go travel. Well, I have a budget now. Can I put it on a credit card? Yes, but now I have to pay these bills. What's going on? Why do I feel trapped? This is how I felt. So I got depressed again. Like, man, there must be more. There must be more. One thing I did, I spent a lot of money. It's funny. This is funny. Faisal will tell you. Faisal is my cousin, as you both know. I would always buy my friends dinner and drinks anytime. I've had money now. Anytime anyone visited me, and he'd say, "Why do you always pay? You can't afford to just always pay for people." He was right. I can't afford to always pay for their food, but I never stopped. And then that was there must be more to life. And then I read the book, and that changed me, man. And then there was a seminar. They had a seminar in town, like in 2 weeks. And so I called Faisal. Rich Dad Poor Dad. They had a seminar. And I have to go. I was like this. I can't. And it was on Instagram. I got one of those Instagram ads with the guy's face, Robert Kiyosaki's face, and I'm like, I have to go to this. And I call Faisal, and I'm like, bro, we have to go. And he's like, no, what is this bullshit? I'm like, no, like this, we have to go. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna go. And I'm like, I'll pay for your ticket. Like I'm paying. Like don't even worry about it. You're coming. Like you have to come. And like I finally I'm like, dude, we're gonna have fun. Like we're gonna hang out the whole weekend. But like, and if it sucks, don't worry about it. But like, just come. And so we were gonna go the first day and just not do it if we thought it sucked because it was like a 3-day seminar. It was like a 3-day thing, and we were hooked. We thought they were lying. Like we thought like you can't make this kind of money, right? Like we thought like there's no way. This is bullshit. People don't actually sell you houses for cash and then you can resell them to an investor and make like 15,000 like this. We thought it was like bullshit.
You talked about wholesaling?
Wholesaling, lease options, wraps. I mean, in 3 days, what they do, this is their sales. They overwhelm me with information and they go, hey, if you want to take our 1-year course, we'll teach you everything. This is what they do. They tell you everything. I mean, they tell you like true shit. They just overwhelm you. There's no way they just give you the fire hose. So they overwhelm you with value and they say, I'll take you through. Man, we stayed those whole 3 days. We couldn't sleep at night. We were like, this is so exciting. On day 3, they do the sale.
Real quick, what date is this? 2019? 2020?
This is 2019, I would say.
Okay.
2019. On day 3, man, they got us. There's like 3 different packages, and we paid for the highest one. We were like, I couldn't even afford it. I was like, put it on my credit card. And we did it. We did this business together in the beginning, but our personalities are very different. You know Faisal. You guys both know Faisal. We're very different personalities. We're both visionaries too. And so we were like, let's preserve our relationship as cousins and love each other forever instead of focusing on the business. So we went 2 different ways. And he's such a good businessman. He started making money, buying houses. Man, those 2 years, I struggled for 2 years. So from 2019 to 2021, I made no money. I had to refinance my credit cards by getting a second mortgage on my home, that condo. But I didn't give up. I said, checking with Faisal, and he's like buying one house after another. He's like, yeah, I'm fixing flipping. I have savings. I'm just going to put my money in fix and flip, and then I'm going to refinance. I'm going to buy one every 6 months. He was just like killing it. I'm like, wow, man, maybe I'm not cut out. I don't know. Maybe I'm not cut out. But that second mortgage wasn't going to pay itself off.
Right.
So I had to figure it out.
Burn the boats.
Yeah, but this is what happened. Jonah, Faisal calls me one day. He goes, Munif, are you still interested in real estate? I'm like, yeah, why? What's going on? Munif, you must join Pace Mortgage Mentorship. And I'm like, bullshit, bro. I've done so much. No, you must join. And it was kind of like this roles reversed, right? He literally made me watch Pace's videos. He made me do it. And I watched one seller call that man make, and I was like, okay, the last of my money here. I joined sub 2. In 3 months, I get my first deal. It was a $4,000. It was a $12,000 deal. We split it 3 ways because I squatted up. I JV'd with 2 other people. I got a check for $4,000. Changed my life completely. It was just deal after deal after that. I leave my W-2, that 6-figure salary job. I leave it, and most of this journey was just reprogramming what's possible, reprogramming my mind. I know this is a podcast about mindset. My current mindset right now, Jonah, is not 6-figure years, it's 6-figure months. This is my mindset. This is like it's inevitable. This is my mindset. So much of this is mindset, man. So much.
Daniel, do you have anything to say to that? I have like 15 things to say to that.
No, I mean, there's no, 100%. Like, I'm listening because I think there's so many nuggets in the conversation, right?
So many.
And it's layered, right? It's the conversation about how to navigate family relationships and how to make the decisions when you're dealing with that, right? There's the conversation of how do I navigate internal stuff, right? Because we're all humans on a human journey, all dealing with our own stuff, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, we're gauged by the scorecard of people who have no clue how to comprehend our experience, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not an accurate measuring stick, yet it's the one that we use to determine whether or not we're on the right path, right? And so, we're on that road, and so it's navigating this walk on the inside, right? And coming up to that decision, and then it's like, okay, now I made a decision and that's failing, then what? So there's so many layers of this, and I think it's really interesting to see that, the value of having a good family support system, right? The value of being given the space to make your own decisions, right? The value of actually acting on a decision once you make that and not giving up, right? Like, there's so many layers to this that we could probably park and talk about. And maybe we should, right? But at the end of the day, what I love is the fact that in this process, throughout all of Munif's journey, there was a support system that was there that played a vital role in him getting where he is today, right? And I think it's an undervalued proposition in business.
Dude, I literally think it's everything. I talked to, like, Daniel, your story might be different. I'd be curious to hear your story a little bit at some point, like when maybe not, I don't know how to, I'm still figuring out the format of this, but this is Munif's time. But at some point, I kind of want to, because like for me, when I think of, and this gets into the whole, like, I'm not going to get political with it, but it gets into the whole, like, what is somebody who, is privileged and like able to do things that others aren't, like create successful businesses. And my family wasn't rich. My dad, I'd say lower middle class, my mom, upper middle class. And I think my greatest privilege was them, way more than any other possible privilege in the world. And I've noticed, and that's been like my thing that I've noticed a lot of times is support. Like, it is impossible to do this, I think, without some sort of support system, whether it's sub 2 or family or whatever. I mean, Munif, if you want to talk about that, like, because dude, I can't even imagine. Like, my story was I had like a $10,000 credit card that I was putting stuff on to start this business. That was super stressful to me, but dude, a second mortgage, and then also like I could imagine it getting pretty dark. I could imagine, because I like seeing the dark side of humanity a little bit. I could imagine that both turning into a huge jealousy thing if your cousin is freaking killing it while you're struggling, mixed with like just the stress of like screw me, how am I going to pay this? Can you like talk a little bit about those years, or like how you dealt with it, or like what maybe somebody else could do to get through it, or like just anything you can say more about that?
Yes. I was incredibly jealous. This is, it's natural, you know. I was jealous. I was envious. I was like, why him? Why not me? What's going on? What is he better? Is he smarter? He is much smarter than me. I will always give him. Faisal is one of the smartest men I've ever met. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe my business philosophy was wrong. This was a hard one to swallow. We have different ways we do business, and I think there's an echo. There was an echo. Well, maybe it was just me. We have different ways we do business, and sometimes thinking that your philosophy was wrong, the way you live, or your way of life, let's say, was wrong. This was very difficult to swallow. But remember, we talked about support system, right? Upbringing parents. Man, oh man. Two things I've always had. One thing from each parent. From my mother, unconditional emotional support. No matter what, always, always. And from my dad, virtues he's taught me. Virtues. He has taught me patience, perseverance, willpower. My dad is just very, very shortly, I'll talk about my dad. He is the middle child of 11. Fishermen, right, from Bangladesh. Just a small fishing village is where they came from. Bangladesh is a very impoverished, poor country. 11 siblings. He was the most average middle child. Most, if you can imagine, the most average. He was not the tallest, handsome, charming. Each of the siblings they are so talented in different ways. Businessmen, engineers, geniuses in the family. Artists, we have all. My dad was the least talented. But the most willpower. Any human I've met, the most determination. Since I was a child, he'd say, never, ever, 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 ever give up. Never. He is relentless. He is tenacious. And he is the most, out of all his siblings, the most successful. He had his ups and downs. He never gave up. The talented one, something happens, just something. Nothing has ever rattled my dad. He has lost everything in the 2007 market. He was an architect. Half a decade, he was jobless. No one was hiring architects. Real estate was dead. He taught himself a man in his 40s, taught himself computer technology. Didn't know. This is relentless. He has now he's a millionaire. My dad is the most average. This is virtues. This is something top.
So let me ask you this: when you were in that situation, right, and you're sitting at the house, you're saying that the family was supportive and they just kind of sat back and let you do your thing, right?
Yes.
What do you? And I don't know if you've ever asked them this, right? But to the point that Jonah was alluding to, a lot of parents might step in at some point and say, hey, get it together. Hey, this isn't healthy. Hey, do X, right? For whatever reason, your parents didn't do that. Have you ever asked them why they let you have that space of 18 months?
I've never asked them.
Have you ever speculated as to why?
Yeah, I think they're very wise. My mom's very emotionally wise. My dad's very, it's just wisdom. I think they talked and they're like, you know what, maybe he's just at this age where he needs a little bit of space. Coming of age, this was, I think they knew this. And so I had food, I had a roof over my head, and I think my dad knew I didn't like asking him for money, so he never made me feel bad about it.
So do you think, right, in this journey, because this obviously played a formative, these were formative years, right? This played a role in your development and who you are today. Do you think that if you had to select the options, do you think for Munif, for you, that was the best option? Do you think if they
Yes.
had come in and stopped, what do you think would have happened had they stepped in at 6 months and said, "Hey, get your stuff together," right?
So there's two questions. Was that the best option? And then what do I think would have happened if they were more involved? The first question I'll answer with yes to everything in my life. Everything in my life. Yes, that was the best option. That was the best thing that happened to me. Best. That would be different if any one thing. If I missed that beer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any one thing would have changed me. So everything, I'm so grateful. My life is a blessing on blessing. Everything was for the best. Everything, even the pain. Actually, especially the pain. So I hope that answers that question. Yes, it was the best thing they could have done for me. The second question, if they became more involved, I don't know. Maybe I would have rebelled. Maybe I would have been like, "Screw you, mom. Screw you, dad." Maybe I would have said, "You guys, like, you know how kids are. You know, I was a glorified teenager. I was 22, but still, my men's brains don't really develop, right?" So I would have probably said stuff like, "You guys pressure me to be a doctor. You guys are doing it for you." Said some hurtful thing. Who knows what I would have said? You know, I would have said things to them I may have regretted. It would have caused. Who needs this, man? You know, they treated me with love, and as I got older, I appreciate every day. I get a little older, I appreciate them a little bit more.
Well, here's why I asked that, right? Because I think that, you got a lot of different types of people who might view this, right? You have the parents who may have the person who's in your age range who's going through something. You also may have the
I
person
know my parents are watching this. They're
right?
like half the viewership.
Right. Okay. So that half viewership. Love it. Hi, Jonah's parents. Thank you for raising such a
You've
dashing.
raised an incredible.
You guys did a good
Thank
job.
you,
Whatever
guys.
you guys
Thank
did,
you.
you did it right. But
Right.
here's like, so in life we look for duplicatability, right? Like, how do I duplicate that? And that's difficult because humans are not duplicatable, right? We're individuals. And I say this all the time. That's why I don't like that oftentimes we take the personal out of personal development. We want everybody to do what the book says, but the book wasn't written for everybody. The book was written for who it was written for. And I think we missed that. And I know that because, like, I'm an outlier. I've always been an outlier since I was a kid, and I've tried to fit in. I've never been able to. And being the outlier comes with its pressures, it comes with its stressors and its difficulties, right? And you learn how to adapt to those things, or at least you hope you do. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people not understanding my journey and mislabeling, my processes because it doesn't make sense to them. I had to be okay with that. But there's going to be somebody out there who is in Munif's place, walking their own journey and doesn't know what the right answer is. And so I asked because I think there is an element to your point is like whatever was going to happen. Yeah, that was the right answer because it's what needed to happen. There's no regrets because I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I think that's a very, I actually really appreciate that philosophy. That's probably the one that I take. But there are some people who aren't at that point of perspective. And so they're looking at life from a place of regret or from a place of would have, should have, could have, right? Like what ifs. And so for those people, right, whether it's the parents who have a kid who are in that circumstance, or if it's the guy or the girl or the person that's in the circumstance, like what's the advice? Is it okay for them to stay in that space? Or do they need somebody to kind of give them a little kick in the ass, right? What's the right answer? How do they know? And how should they know that they should be okay with whatever decision they made?
You asked a lot of questions, Daniel.
I do. There was like 4 questions.
There was like 4 in there.
Yeah. But this is Munif. Munif can handle this.
Yes, I will try.
Okay.
So you asked me something to shift my perspective, because you said you acknowledge that I'm in a frame of mind to have a perspective that whatever happens is for the best. And then you said, what if someone was not in that perspective? Can you give them an answer?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do they choose the best if they're not in the look? That's like asking. It's like asking. I don't know. It's like asking a lion how a shark should behave. You understand? This is. Yeah, this is a shark. Is a shark. It swims. It cannot hunt on the ground. So, but I can try.
Sure.
You're somebody who regrets things. You want to choose the best decision. You have to. What is the best possible outcome? You have to ask yourself, what is the best? What to you? What is the best possible outcome? What do you want? Like, what do you really want? And not just out of this decision, like out of life, you know. And really look deep into yourself, because we don't really have that much control. We don't. People, we think we're glorified monkeys. We think we can control things. We have no control. We press buttons and we think we can. We have no control. So what do you want? Okay, find out. Do you really have control? Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you have a little bit. What do you want to do with that control? What's most important to you? Maybe a parent might find out that, look, my child was my child, and maybe what I want out of life is I want the best life for them. I don't want them to suffer. I don't want them to be in pain and misery. But maybe they must. Maybe they must learn for themselves. Maybe they must learn how to be strong. Maybe I can't be strong for them. Maybe, or maybe I must step in, or they will hurt themselves and other people. Maybe it's time to step in. And if I don't step in, I cannot live with myself. This is true too. So maybe the answer to this question is, maybe life is full of regrets, but which decision will you regret the least? Maybe
that's an interesting way of saying it.
Yes.
Daniel, I want to, because Munif's story is very similar to mine. So I don't really want to get into my story that much, because it's very similar to yours. But I want to hear more about you, in the sense that I think your story is going to add something to this whole conversation about support systems. And what you just asked Munif about, what's the right way to deal with it as a parent or like a support system, because not always it's going to work as I'm going to let them be for a while. Eventually, there might be some kick in the ass that's needed, because your story is very different. It sounds like you were kicked in the ass immediately. And
it was only kicks in the ass. That was it. It was 100% ass kicks. It
was literally like, get the hell out of the door. I don't even care if you're a legal adult, it sounds like, type of kick in the ass. So I want to know how that affected you in your journey a little bit, and talking about the opposite side to Munif's, if that's okay, Munif, because I think I really want to get into the different possible perspectives of how a support system could be, or what happens if there isn't a support system. I don't know your story, but I kind of want to hear your story in relation to this, having a support system or not having a support system.
So I think for me, I think actually Munif, maybe inadvertently, he actually answered the question perfectly, right? Because what did he say? He said, if I'm a shark, and you're a lion, how do I give you advice? Mm-hmm. Well, that's the best advice, is just acknowledge that you're a lion and I'm a shark. And we are going to have to navigate things differently, right? And it's the phrase that Albert Einstein said: if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's going to live its entire life thinking it's a failure, thinking that there's something wrong with it. And I think a lot of times as humans, right, with that measuring stick of how other people are supposed to live their lives, and that would go for parents and children, we keep measuring ourselves or measuring our loved ones against this measuring stick, realizing that we haven't actually asked whether or not they're a shark or a lion. And I think you have to start there. So for my journey, my mom, I mean, it's the cycle, right? My mom was out of the house at 15 and on her own, right? So, she improved because I was out of the house at 17. But the support system, their idea of support was teaching you how to survive, right? Like it's the do you teach a man how to fish or do you give him a fish? My family is very much I'm not giving you any fish. You know what a fishing pole looks like? Go find one, right? So
it's the exact opposite. So that's why I'm so curious.
Literally the opposite, right? And so there was plenty of times in my, once I got out of the military and I'm out and I'm in the world and I'm doing my thing very, very poorly. And I'm like, I wish I had what Munif had, right? I really, really wished I would have had that. So because this could be a whole different show. Here's how I'll summarize this. I agree 1,000% with Munif. I don't regret anything because I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm here because of all of the things that I went through, right? I am a result of all of the things I experienced in life and the things I was able to persevere and learn through these things, right? So I don't regret it. I wouldn't change anything as a general rule, right? So, but there was plenty of times on this journey, I looked at this from the perspective of, okay, if I'm a parent and I have kids, am I doing it Munif's parents' way or am I doing it my parents' way? And I'm 100% going to follow Munif's parents.
Why? Why for you? Because I'm curious why for you.
Because a lot of times we know that failures teach people, right? But that's not the only things that teach people. And for whatever reason, we live in this world where we're taught that the only way to advance is through struggle, right? But struggle doesn't have to mean homelessness. It doesn't have to mean not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, right? Munif was able to come to that same revelation because one night he wasn't able to get beers with his friends and somebody else was kind enough to do that for him, right? That light bulb went off, right? He didn't need to be panhandling to have that light bulb go off. He knew that he was going to go home and have a warm meal and a good bed to sleep in. And he still came to that same revelation, which put him on the track to make multiple six figures monthly before he's 40 years old, right? So why did he need to panhandle to get that revelation? He didn't, right? And so for me, having been on that side of it and seeing people who are on this side, because if you look at it culturally, you look at the cultures who come into the United States, and right, there's probably going to be a statistician who comes in here and says I'm crazy, right? But that's cool, and maybe I'm wrong. But from what I've seen,
I'm just putting that on there, just FYI for a little bit. Because I agree with it. It's why I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is why I have people on. I said this in my Instagram story. I have people who are better than me. That's what makes this podcast so good. Because you are like a real estate pastor. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I appreciate it.
Like, that's so true.
I think we're all better than one another at something, right? And that's what makes the value of collaboration and really caring and genuinely connecting with people important, right? Because there's things that you guys can do I could never do, right? And even though I'm amazing at some other stuff, I'm really bad at other things, right? So, but to this point, if you look at it culturally, when you see Asian families, Indian or Middle Eastern families, they come into the country, what do? They live in a house, nobody leaves, right? Like you got 16 family members living in a house. You got people coming from Mexico. All of these families live together. What do? They work together. They support each other. And guess what? They own businesses together. They own the whole entire freaking block, right? There's context clues here, guys, right? What's the phrase? Success leaves clues? That's a clue. Right. So for me, I know a lot of people who got put out the house at 15, 16 years old. Right. Guess what? The house they were put out of didn't have electric bills paid. And the house that they're living in right now also doesn't have their electric bill paid.
Right.
So maybe there's something not that great about that philosophy. Right. And I understand the thought process behind giving people enough strength to stand on their own. But my guess is, and I haven't done this research, if I ran the numbers of the people who took it the way that my family's upbringing was and then did it the way Munif's family's upbringing was, my guess is it's not even going to be a comparison as to which family structure and decision-making process leads to success and which one leads to struggle. I don't really think, because there's value in a support system. There's value in collaboration. People resonate towards it. As human beings, we need it. We strive and search for it. And it feels like we're missing something when we don't have it. This is why Sub 2, like you said at the beginning, is as special as it is. It's not because Pace is this amazing person. That's a huge part of it. But that person created something special that human beings know that they need, which is a community.
I love it. This is just an open question as I'm like thinking about this. Do we think there is something in the line there of like what either way, whether you get kicked out of the house at 15 or if you don't and you're not and you have the support system? Like this might be going into a completely different topic, and Mooney, if you can go on this first, but what do we think honestly, not just like, because okay, so what I'm going to ask is like, what makes somebody successful at whatever they're doing versus not successful? But I'm not talking about the consistency of action as much. I'm talking about what about a person makes them take consistent action or makes them, squat up. That's a different question than like what Pace has asked before. It's like it's consistency, it's squatting up. That's the easy answer. But what about a person makes them actually do it versus not do it? I'm curious if you
Are
have
you
any.
talking about? There is a couple. Like I think the question reformed a couple times, and I want to be clear about answering. Are you asking what makes somebody successful versus unsuccessful, or are you talking
personality wise? Like successful, but what about their personality, or if there's something like ingrown or environmental that you think is different?
So it's I'll try to explain this as best as I can, but it's alignment. Okay, alignment with what you want, right? Which is target, right? We're human beings. We find targets. I mean, all mammals do this. Rats do this. You put what they want, and then they'll find it. Now, we get confused with what we want, really, because we're fragmented. We have egos. We have we're infighting with ourselves. It's ourselves we're fighting. And so we end up doing what we want to do, typically. Like when you look at someone's life, their day, they end up doing what they want. They might not admit it. If I used to journal, when I was depressed, and it was so funny. I was reading my journals. I remember I was playing video games all day. I was depressed. I would journal that like tomorrow is the day I will study or look for a job or study this field. This was before the beer incident, right? This is like, so I actually realized I was actually trying, like those 2 years, I was actually trying to like get a job in my own way. And I've read my journals, and it was almost impossible to not wake up and do my routine, which was eat food at 5 p.m. and get on the computer and play video games. Like it was almost impossible, even though I would write down, no, I really want to get a job. And so why is that? And that's because I really wanted to just not think about that and play video games. And I didn't even admit that to myself. So when somebody is aligned with who they are and what they want, when they're in alignment, and you define what success is in your own heart, whether it's you want a family, you want to have a 9-to-5 and train in martial arts at night, whatever that is, when you're in alignment with who you are and what you want, you will get it.
I love that answer so much. That like makes so much sense to me, and it's one I've never thought of before. I don't know if you have an answer to that, Daniel, too. I'm throwing it out to anybody, but that was so good. That's hard to follow up also.
No, I agree. I think it's very purpose driven. But this is a popular question. It's nature versus nurture, right? So I think there's an element of that as well. I think there's a lot of people, right? There's a passage in a book that says the thing I don't want to do, I find myself doing. The thing I want to do, I'm not able to do. What's wrong with me that I have this internal constant struggle to pick which is right? And I think there's layers to this and processes to it, but I do definitely think it's purpose oriented. There's something inside of us that wakes up. But I also think we got to be willing to try new things, right? I think that a lot of times in our head, intellectually, we'll say we want something, but we don't want the process that leads us to that thing, right? Like everybody wants the bread, but nobody wants to go and grab the flour and start baking.
Right.
Right. We don't like the process of getting to certain things. And
I
so
have
what
I have a
happens,
saying, if it's okay to interrupt, I have a saying that I love is everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
I mean, that's the perfect saying. That's exactly what it is, right? So what happens? So here's the other side of it, because these are both true. These are both. This is both and. It's not either or, right? And it goes to finding our own path. When you want to be, there's a lot of people who say they want to be successful. They want to do like what Munif and so many other people inside of this community in the real estate world are doing and make 6 figures monthly. Amazing, right? But Munif had to get a second mortgage on his house and make absolutely no money, fail miserably, and watch his cousin succeed and leave him in the dust for a season before he could get there, right? That's the cost. That's the flour in the water, right? Munif didn't just wake up one day and get there. Munif didn't just wake up at the Closers Olympics. He had to fail a lot to get there. He had to be willing to go through that process, right? And so I think that's one of the things that we don't like to accept as a possibility. So I guarantee you, there's somebody that's watching right now. There's probably a number of people who will watch this thing and who will be like, I really, really want that success, but this job pays really good. And I get that raise every single year, and I'm getting promotions, and I'm doing this. Am I getting the dreams that I want? Right? Am I accomplishing the goals? Am I doing this? No, but it doesn't cost me that risk either, right? And so this is why, and I put this on my Instagram a couple weeks back. The biggest, like the opposite of greatness isn't failure. It's not losing. It's not, it's not bad. The opposite of greatness, the enemy of greatness, is good enough.
Right.
Because good enough will keep us from our dreams way more than failure will.
I love that. Munif, I'm going back to your story a little bit because we haven't even gotten to the extremely happy part, really. Like, we've gone through the struggle, like the second mortgage.
He does have a happy ending.
Oh, he has better than a happy ending, dude. He has like an ecstatic ending. He hasn't ended with the ecstaticness at all.
Why are you guys saying it like that?
Because we have to make it as uncomfortable as possible.
We have to. It's got to be
weird. So keep going with the story. You're still in that depressed place. You join Sub 2. What happens?
So I was only really depressed. I'll use that word very carefully. Twice, right? I was when I was in my parents' basement, and then when I was at my W-2. When I was struggling, when I was envious, I was not depressed. I want to be clear about that. It was a dark place, but I was fighting for my life. I was not depressed. I joined Sub 2, and man, these 2 years, I did all the mentorships, I did all these trainings, I learned all this theory, and my whole life I thought I was an integrator. An integrator, for those watching who don't know what an integrator is, they're like the engineer types. I got a degree in engineering. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be this kind of person, this engineer type person. So I always spent my time like analysis paralysis. I spent my time analyzing deals, and those 2 years I maybe talked to 5 sellers. So what I would do is I tried my best. I would like pull a list and text it, and someone would be like, yeah, I'm interested. And then I would like spend like a week like figuring out like 9 different like exit strategies. I knew what a novation was before Sub 2. I didn't know it was called that. I just knew they called it like a partnership or something. And so I would like figure out all this. Like, I would just like make spreadsheets, dude. And like, then I'd call the seller and I'd be like, well, I've got like 20 different options for them. So like, don't worry, like they're going to pick one of them. And I get past like
sellers love when you give them 20 options.
Right. I thought that, and then so I get on the phone and like I'd like, hey, this is Munif. And I'd be like, who the are you? And is there an echo? Can you guys hear that?
There was a little bit of an echo right there, just for a second.
Hey, who are you? I'm like, well, you texted me 2 weeks ago that you want to sell your house. It's like, yeah, what's your offer? Well, I have many offers for you. We could do this, we could do this, we can do this, and then hang up the phone. Or they would yell at me. Some people would yell at me. And I'd get like really scared. I'd hang up. And I was like, I am not a closer. I'm not a closer. I'm not somebody who should be on the phone with sellers. And then I see Pace Morgan. And I see just the way he communicates. And there's just something special about how he talks to people, especially with sellers, how he just, something about how he communicates is just magical. I want to talk like him. I want to talk like this guy. So I literally join up too. I go to the Zoom ball and I like play on repeat, just like him talking to sellers. I do chores. I like do dishes. I just like love how he talks to people. And then he says something. He says, if there's any skill set to master in this business, he would choose talking to sellers because he can forgo everything else. If he's really good at that one skill set, he will always feed his family. And I like that. So I wanted to try. I wanted to say, let me try. Let me learn this skill set. So they have this role play every morning. Daniel Quijano used to actually be a coach in it on Thursday mornings called the Daily Dial. Every morning, back when I joined a year ago, they used to we only used to have the Daily Dial. It was role plays in front of like 70, 80, 100 sub 2 students every morning from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go here and practice. And I didn't go, bro, for like the first 3 weeks. I would just like log in and you'd like raise your hand and I wouldn't raise my hand in the Zoom. And after 3 weeks of not doing it, I made a promise to myself that I will raise my hand every single day or I will quit real estate.
Wow.
Because I did not put down the cost of the mentorship, which was in the 5 figures, just to not take action. And so my first role play, I remember that. It was a fake phone call. It was a role play. And I get on the phone and I'm like, hello. And like everyone's watching me. Caroline's like encouraging me, and it's like George Edwards, another sub 2 student. And he's like, who is this? Who the hell is calling me? And I'm like, I'm just getting like PTSD of like 2 years of those 5 seller calls. And I like hang up the phone. I'm like, bye. And I hang up the phone.
Hilarious role play.
Hung up a make-believe phone call.
Yes, man. And I never gave up. My dad's words. I mean, we're talking about a lot of the theme here is the support system. My dad's words: never give up, never lose hope. And the advice that day was like Marlon Johnson. You guys know Marlon. He was
Marlon. He's been on the podcast.
He's excellent. I love Marlon. And he was my coach, right? He was like there with me the first, like literally when I was super, super good. He's a Munif, my man. All right, we don't hang up the phone on our sellers. We talk to them. And I'm like, yes, let me write that down. All right.
I love that. That's a great line.
Good point. Didn't think about that.
Yeah, wait a minute. Shit. Forgot.
Daniel, Jonah, guys, I did this every single morning. I would write notes. Man, I have stacks of flashcards.
For 5 seconds, I thought you were like, every single morning I hung up on the seller. I did this for 5 weeks until I realized that this was not the right way to do it.
I thought I was not meant to talk to sellers. And then I tried until I found out I had a gift with talking.
Can I slow you down for a second? I'm sorry to do this because you're an entrancing storyteller, but like I'm so curious because I can feel you talking about it and remembering the fear that was there. And the name of this podcast is Scorch the Fears.
Bro, yes.
I want to get into that because it was obviously a petrifying fear for
Mhm.
years, it sounds like.
Yes.
And then eventually you're on the day, even in the daily dial, you were afraid. And then eventually you were talking about that moment for a second, that moment where you were like, I promise myself to raise my hand every single day, or otherwise I'm quitting real estate. And then
Yes.
that was the moment that switched. If you have a way of doing it, how does one get from the petrifying fear to at least that moment? Because I think that's the hardest part, is getting to that one moment where it's like, it's not, you went from a want to a must. I see it in that moment, how it went from a want to do this to a must do this. And I'm curious if you have any advice on how to make that switch.
Well, it was just a promise. It was like
some of these things are hard to vocalize also. Like I've tried vocalizing them to myself for my own things. So if I'm asking you to do it on the spot, but sometimes
so,
if you don't have an answer, you don't have to.
You know, like Jonah, I thought it came because I thought it was time to give up.
Damn.
You know, that's why I think I give up now. I think I'm not made for this. I think it's time. There's like a little voice that's like, what if you tried this one thing? You know, I'll give up if I don't raise my hand. Think of it, I've reframed it. Not that I raise my hand. If I don't, I give up. It's if I don't raise my hand, I quit. So I got in and I raised my hand. I didn't want to give up.
You couldn't handle the quitting.
No, I couldn't handle the quitting. I couldn't. I said, let me at least do this.
Yeah. That to me, I just want to, like, I'm going to go into that a little bit of like what I'm seeing. And if you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong. Part of me feels like, because this I've thought about before, the difference is that at like to a lot of people and to me too about different things than talking to sellers is you had the fear in front of you. The devil was in front of you. And I think what you're saying is in that moment, you put it behind you a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense, but like what I'm trying to say there is that like you went from, oh God, this is scary in front of me, the calling the seller, and then you put a bigger demon behind that's like, oh no, I might give up, and then I've got a second mortgage and all this debt. That's scarier than the demon in front of me. So I have to fight the lesser demon, which is talking to the seller.
This devil in front of me, I'll tell you how scary it was if you want to know the emotions I had. First, maybe 3 months, consecutively. So I did this every day. I raised my hand every day. 3 months, every morning, before they called my name, I would get so nauseous I wanted to throw up. This is how scared I was. I would get so nauseous, and it would get worse. Let's say I was third in line. I have to wait for the first guy. I have to wait for the second guy. And it's me, okay. It's me. They say my name. I'm going to throw up, man. Like, I'm like, and the worst was when Caroline would go, okay, hold on real quick before Munif goes. Let me talk about something. That was the worst. I hated this. I wanted to just
now you know you're up and you have to go.
So what I did was I got up earlier, got in really quick, and I made it a thing where I would just raise my hand really fast and be first in line. And other people, it's funny, people think, oh man, Munif's so driven. He's such a go-getter. Wow. No, I needed to get it done. I couldn't stay nauseous for that long. So
I was that's hilarious. I literally couldn't be nauseous anymore. That's so
Here's what's funny. So we talked about this today. We had our accountability group meeting. And so we talked about this. It's the same thing under a different context today. There was a couple of people that were in there that were talking about the need to feel safe, right? They said they were talking about investing and the risks associated with it. And they said, well, I just need to feel secure. I need to feel safe. And what's funny is my response to them is very similar to what we're discussing here. I said, have you thought about maybe asking yourself if that is a need or if it's a want? right? Because it goes back to what we discussed when I was the guest on the podcast talking about fear, right? You got to define things, you got to give them a name, right? Because if not, you'll have this thing that seems like it's this big, scary monster in the corner, and then you turn the light on and you realize it's just the hanger on the coat rack, right? But how much of your life have you wasted making decisions to go around the monster in the corner? Because for you it's been real, from your perspective it's look real, nobody can, it's right there, how you tell me it's not there? But you just never turn the light on to realize that what you were scared of isn't actually a thing. And so what I asked them today was, sometimes when you think about this need to feel secure and the thing that's holding you back, right? So we'll call it the thing that's holding you back. Give that a name and ask what the risk factors are if you do that thing, right? But then give a name to the things that happen to you if you do succeed at what you're trying, right? And what you'll usually find is that the destination, if you succeed at what you're trying, is full of tangible things that actually do relate to security and happiness and your goals. And the thing that's holding you back is related to nothing. So you're letting your imaginations keep you away from the thing that you actually want because you never actually gave it a name, right? And so my guess is, and I don't know, I don't want to put words in Munif's mouth. If you try to go back, Munif, and actually define and give a name, was there any tangible reality to the things that were holding you back, or was it the monster in the corner that actually didn't really mean anything once you turned the lights on and realized, hold on, that's a fake seller. I don't need to hang up on this thing because there's no danger here.
Yes, it was. I knew it theoretically, but
in application, it seems different, right? That shadow looks really scary when you're looking at it.
I had to do it. I had to do it, and then not die. Right? I did it. It took me 3 months for my body to learn, Munif, it's okay, you won't die. It felt like I was going to die. I felt like I was, they were going to line me up and shoot me, but it's okay. I was okay.
Nobody shot you?
Nobody shot me. I was okay. I survived.
Interesting.
But you must. I mean, you can. How do I say this? Most of this journey has been me reprogramming my mind, right? Just unwiring and unraveling. And finally, I'm at this point where I feel, this is how I feel from the bottom of my heart. Not that I put in a program, maybe I've reprogrammed some things, but I've actually pulled out so much wiring and cobwebs that now it's like imagination. My mind's free to just be free. If I can conceptualize it, it can be reality. This is the state my mind is in. So I only want 6-figure months right now because 7 figures is a little bit of too much of a hassle right now. I can do it. If I wanted 7 figures, I can do it, but it'll be a little bit of a hassle. 6, let's do 6 right now.
I love that so much. That so gets back into what you were talking about what do I want and what's my alignment.
Yes.
Because I'm a little bit like that too, where getting a little bit back to real estate. This was something that Sam asked me on his new podcast, was Jonah, why aren't you buying real estate? Why are you only wholesaling? And I'm like, because even though I'd love to own real estate and I get the benefits, it's not what I want at this moment, because I need to focus on this part of my business and this needs to get down because my lifestyle is more important to me than financial freedom right now, which I learned, which I clicked in my head when I was saying it. It's my lifestyle means more to me than financial freedom. I'm 27. I don't need to be financially free personally. I'm going to get there. I'm talking next year. I'm going to probably start buying, or later in the year. I already own a house. I own some real estate, but it's not systematized when I get it for now. But I think that goes back to that. So anyways, man, I'm going to get through your story, even though usually I try to keep it to an hour, but you obviously can't be contained in an hour. It's just impossible for you to be contained there. No, you're fine. I went with Daniel for an hour and 45 because certain people, it's there's too much value here for me to care. I'm only going to stop when either I feel like we're good or one of you has to go, basically. And that's basically it. So going on with finishing. So keep going. So we finally are not throwing up from talking to sellers and hanging up on people on a fake call. So going on.
So then I go, okay, now what? I want to be better. They haven't asked me to be a closer yet. What do I do next? So I asked Pace, like my first question ever for Pace. I go into the Q&As, but I never had a question for him. Everything I could Google, like not Google, but in the sub 2 you can search. So I would just search if I had or I'd ask somebody, But this question, I knew I had to ask Pace. No one could give me an answer. I couldn't search it. It was, Pace, how do I become a better closer? No one could answer this. This must come from Pace. It was my first question to Pace. He spent an hour telling me his story. I'm not going to spend an hour telling you Pace's story, but the summation was he thought he had to be like his mentor to be a better closer. But he learned he must be himself, and he will close deals like this, and he is the best. And then I wrote that down. I was like, oh, write this down. So be yourself. And he said, here's more. He's like, one's mindset and one's practical. I love Pace. He's so smart. Mindset and then practical. He told me the mindset part. The practical part, he said, bring people to your appointments. He said, I got so good when I was teaching. I teach. I'd say, okay, if you want to learn how to talk to seller, come with me. And then he'd go and they'd watch. He'd say, no problem. These are my interns. They're watching. My business have interns. Don't worry about them. And he'd just do this appointment. And then he'd teach them later what he did. He said, there's a 2-step process. When you teach somebody something, you learn it better. It ingrains into you. And when you have an audience, you must perform. You must perform. There's no way around that. Where there's somebody watching you, you must perform. He said there's appointments where he would have just turned around and gone home, but he had 3-4 students watching him. He has to say something.
Yeah.
Try something. I love this. But I said, Pace, this is 2021. I said, Pace, this is COVID. I only call sellers on the phones. I do virtual. He said, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? I said, maybe I'll stream it. He said, yeah, you should stream. You should stream your seller calls. I said, okay, perfect. I'm a gamer. Remember, you guys remember my background. I'm a gamer. I'm like, okay, well, let me do it on Twitch. I'll stream on Twitch, my seller calls. He said, okay, Munif, and I want you to name it the takeaway. And every call, you just share a takeaway you learned. And thus, the takeaway was born. And I took immediate action. I just within the hour, I had a logo, a Twitch, all set up. I started streaming my seller calls the next day. No one watched. 0 people watched. So I got on my cell phone and I watched myself stream. So I had at least 1 viewer. And now
wait, that's hilarious. Wait, did you say you go on your cell phone and that was your 1 viewer?
That was my viewer. So I always had 1 viewer. I felt good. It was nice.
I want it. That's hilarious. I like that a lot.
This is amazing.
What did that do for you mindset wise? Because obviously practically doesn't like what there's a mindset thing there.
Yes.
Yeah. Why did you need to do that?
Bro, when you look in the corner and there's a little eye icon, an eye, and there's a 0 next to it, it's very different than if there's a whole number next to it.
I still feel that. I feel that with this podcast. I mean, there's a few people watching, and that makes it very different than if there were 0.
Oh, yeah. 0 is 0, but 1 is 1. This is a big difference. There's an infinite gap between 0 and 1.
True.
So this is important.
Okay, write that down. 0 is 0, but 1 is 1.
Dude, there's so many gems in this one. I'm just loving this, guys. So many gems.
Yes, I did it. It helped me a lot. So I did it. And then, 1 became 2, which became 3. And now I average 60, 70 viewers. This is
damn.
Amazing. I'm happy and blessed. And now new fear. Oh my gosh. Vomit. Nausea.
Did that come again? Did that come again once you saw the 67?
Bro. Yes. Even when it was 2, when that 1 became a 2, and I'm like, there's a human watching me now. Holy shit, I'm on the phone. But I did it, and Pace was right. It made me better. I had to perform. People were like, wow, Munif, this was great. You're doing great. Wow. I'm like, oh wow, and it was just like made me better. And then the Closers Olympics happened. You know,
Dun, dun, dun. Like how both of us thought it.
You guys are so funny.
This is why he's becoming my co-host.
On the same frequency. It's so funny. You guys are like twins.
Keep going.
So Closers
I'm gonna
Olympics.
go back and edit it and put the actual.
That'd be perfect.
Sound.
That's absolutely perfect.
Beautiful.
Sorry, keep going, Munif.
The Closers Olympics is a competition. I've vaguely heard about it, and it's a competition where you are streaming live seller calls, but you're not only streaming live seller calls, you're also competing with like 10 other people, and you have 30 minutes to get a contract. And that's the goal. And even if you don't get a contract, you're being judged, and there's thousands of people watching. And Elena Tang from Sub 2, like the first person there, I will never forget this. She like comments on my post. I would post my seller calls. And she's like, you should enter into the Closers Olympics. And I wrote back, it was like, no way, I'm too busy. I was busy, but I was scared shitless. Look, I'm not doing this. This is not for me. I'm not doing this shit. And then me and Daniel, like literally the following Monday, we're in Wholesale Hotline. Like we were in the comments, just like being, hey, what's going on? And Pace sees us, and he just makes a declaration. Daniel, did he consult you before making this declaration?
You were in it too, weren't you, Daniel?
Yep.
He was. Pace declared that my students, even in my chat, look, Munif and Daniel are in my chat. My students, Munif and Daniel, I will bet if they enter this competition, one of them will win top 3.
To the finals, yep.
Yep. One of them will go to the finals. This, I guarantee. You know what? I'm going to put $5,000 on it. $5,000.
Pace.
Like,
what a guy.
Yes, what a guy. I was so shook. Daniel and I were like, I think we called each other. We're like, yo, we have to enter now. Like he just $5,000. He like called everybody out in the industry. That's $5,000 that we're going to place top 3. And then in another podcast, like with the judges and hosts of the Closers Olympics, he just doubles up. He goes, yeah, you know what? My students, Munif and Daniel, will crush it. You know what? I'm going to double up and bet $10,000. One of them.
Such a Pace move.
I was so pissed. I was excited and pissed because I was like, what are you doing?
Gauntlet's thrown.
Yeah, because he wasn't just putting me in. He was talking shit, dude.
Yeah.
I don't talk shit. Like, this is not my style. I don't live life talking shit. I'm different. I'm open. I love people. I don't know, whatever. I don't talk shit. It's not what I do. Some people talk shit and they love it. I don't love it. I love this. This is what I love. What we're doing here right now. I love this. And Pace was talking mad shit, and I was like, Pace. I call him. I'm Pace. I'm so nervous. What are you doing? Please stop talking. Please, the 10,000. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose your money. Pace. He goes, hey, why are you nervous? Don't be nervous. It's okay. It's just money. It's fine. Have fun. Just do what you do. Don't be nervous. Just go have fun. Okay, how can I be mad?
Pace just in that. Sorry, I'm gonna add a joke. Like Pace in the background is like, this freaking kid better not lose all my goddamn money. He's just like, I gotta calm him down before he makes me lose 10K.
Oh, seriously, fine. No, seriously.
He is so funny. He's so funny. You can't stay mad at Pace. I was mad for 15 minutes, maybe tops. Then I'm like, okay, he's so nice. He said, Munif, this is, try. So I did. Daniel and I trained together, and one thing led to another. And bro, when I tell you I was nauseous for the Daily Dial, I was nauseous for Twitch. When I was up on, I don't know how nervous you were, Daniel. I don't know, but I will tell you guys how nervous I was for this. My whole body was shaking. I couldn't stop it. I actually physically could not stop it. I was nauseous. That was, I was drinking the lattes. Yeah, because I couldn't eat food. I needed something. I needed something to down. I couldn't eat. You understand? I couldn't keep food down. I was that nervous. I was like, if I eat, I'll throw up. I need something. I was shaking.
Was this the day of, or when was this?
All 3 days, bro.
Yeah, 3 days.
All 3 days I was. And
damn,
Daniel knows this. And people were like, "Oh wow, you're so calm. You're so chill." No, this is practice. This is practice. This is practice because I practiced. I had to meditate 15 minutes. Faisal was there. Faisal drove 5 hours to come and help me, support me. Munif, let me get you food. Let me get you coffee. Let me comp for you. I will help you. I'm here for you. My brother. This is what happens when you put the relationship first. My brother, my cousin Faisal, the same Faisal I was envious of, dropped everything to come help me. He says, "You're shaking. I've never seen you shake. You need to stop shaking." I can't stop shaking. I can't stop. I shook.
Coffee and no food. Of course you're shaking.
Well, yes.
And nervous.
It didn't help. I was like, if I eat something, I will throw up. And I meditated. He's like, you need to sit down and close your eyes and breathe for 15 minutes. And I did. And I managed to get my top half of my body still. Bottom half was shaking. And he was there. He'll tell you the whole story. And I was constantly, I was wearing a hoodie in the closed Olympics. I wore my hat in a hoodie. It's people, "Oh, he loves his hoodie." No, I was sweating. I was cold. It was scary. And I won second place. It happened. But it was not easy. And
so because I'm so curious, how in the world are you because if everyone's saying, damn, this kid's so calm, but you're literally shaking and sweating, how were you able to keep that internal stress and fear in while still doing the thing?
Because the moment that fucking timer started and it was my turn to go, everything disappeared. Everything was gone. And it was this, remember I said alignment, right? It's like a target, right? Everything zoned out and I just focused on the target. And there's nothing. I mean, you could not even, it was just me and the seller. It was quiet, everything quiet. And I was just, I made my art. This is my art. And I've been practicing. So I performed. And the moment my thing was up, I turned off my camera. I adrenaline dumped. My one of my best friends and one of my closers, Ralph. Ralph isn't my team. He's one of my ninjas. He is an MMA coach, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a 7-time 7-0 winner, champion. So he was my coach the week of the Olympics, and he coached me not on real estate sales. He coached me on mindset and how to win and how to be a champion. And he called me. He said, "You're adrenaline dumping. All that adrenaline is now your body's just allowing the shock of it you're going to feel it." He said, "You need to go to bed early. You need to eat something." He coached me. He was amazing. But to answer your question, in that moment, those 30 minutes, that's all there was. It was.
That's so interesting. That there are moments I've had those moments too with completely different things, but I've had them whenever I've had to compete too, where it's I had it with this was nothing close to that because it wasn't a competition, but I had that. I remember when I did the Secret Agent Challenge for Jamil, where I was pretty nervous beforehand, but then it's the same thing. Once it happens, I've been in performances and other stuff, but once you're doing it, it's so calming.
Yes.
Like it reminds me, I don't know if you guys have heard this Will Smith story. Like I'm curious if you guys have heard the one about his skydiving, where basically like his friends and all of them, they're telling he's skydiving. He's shaking like you were the entire night, all the way going up to the plane. But then once he jumped, that's when it all went away and he felt the best. The maximal point of danger is where you finally give up all the fear, which I think is crazy. It's the same with that. That was the thing that you were so scared of, and it was happening, but you weren't scared when it was happening. So gnarly.
Exactly. I mean, it was. Remember, you were at my event, Jonah, in San Francisco. So, Jonah, for everyone who's listening, Jonah was at my event. I asked him to speak.
Yeah, he just threw that out there. I'm like, yeah, I gotta figure something out.
You told me you were nervous.
I was nervous.
But when you were on stage, you were so calm, you were collected, you were natural. Same thing. I don't think you were nervous.
That made me feel good. I was like, I thought I was like, a part of me was like, I don't know how I'm doing right now. Like I might be fucking up right now.
You're really good.
People told me I did good, so
you're really good.
Cool. Dude, okay, so I still want to finish up your story because I mean like you're killing it right now. Closers Olympics happens.
Yes.
Then what?
Then I had a short-term adrenaline dump. And I had a long-term adrenaline dump, like all the stress from the weeks leading up to it. Because I wore this hat. This means a lot to me right here. This
sub 2 hat.
And it means sub 2. It means the community. We talked about community, and I felt like I was representing something bigger than myself. So I took this very seriously. So there's a lot of stress on me that I put on myself. Pace didn't put on me. This was me. I felt I needed to represent. And after it was over, I got sick. I have childhood asthma, and asthma is an autoimmune disease. Your immune system it attacks your lungs. This is asthma, or it's like it can be allergy induced, it can be anxiety induced, but it's your immune system. These immune things, flare-ups happen when your immune system's haywire. My asthma came from childhood. Literally over a decade, I haven't had coughed. I couldn't speak without coughing. It's for 2-3 months. Daniel knows this. Remember, I was sick. Everyone was like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I didn't know. I thought I had COVID. I thought I had this. I got tested, and then that doctor said, "You're asthma. This is asthma. This is asthma." What do you mean I haven't had asthma in over a decade? No, this is asthma. So my immune system needed to recover. It needed to come back. Crazy, right? And I'm better. I have a little bit of a cough. I take my inhaler. Now I'm hiking again. Now I don't stress, Jonah. I don't stress. I don't stress. And I'm not afraid anymore. I learned fear. I look fear in the eye, and I'm not afraid of anything.
Dude, how did you? I mean, your story is so amazing in so many different ways, but I just don't even understand how you physiologically kept going through that, like constantly needing to throw up, stressing so much to the point like you're sick, but you're still going through it. Like how? Like I've dealt with fear, but I've dealt with some, like I have some anxiety problems for sure, but how do you press through physical symptoms from these?
I breathe, man. I learned meditation and I just breathe. I breathe. And sometimes I can't even breathe because I'm so scared. I just breathe. I just breathe through it.
That's crazy. So you were saying, so you don't fear fear. You do not feel fear ever now because of that experience?
I'm not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm free. Now I feel free. Like when I told you that I had to, a lot of it was fear, And now it's like imagination. Now, like I even talk differently, Jonah. Believe it or not, I speak differently now because my words sometimes I don't even use complete sentences now. How I even speak is different because I pull off. It's not a reprogram. It's like pulling wires out. Now it's open. Even how I speak is open. Now it's what do I have to be afraid of? Life is beautiful. It's all beautiful. This is
man.
Programmed.
You and Daniel might be the only two people I know who completely scorched the fears. Completely scorched them, dude. That's crazy.
We all can do it.
I love that. Damn, man. I mean, I could end it there. That was just a beautiful fucking ending. I don't know if Daniel, do you have any more comments? I actually have one more question for you that I ask everybody at the end, but
yes.
No, hit it. Go ahead, man.
Okay. So this is what I always like ending it with, is this question, because I really like this question because it tells you a lot about how a person views things. If you could go now, if you could take you now, right now, go back to Munif going to the Rich Dad Poor Dad conference.
Yes.
What would you tell him? What advice would you give him?
I wouldn't say shit. No, just not interact.
That's amazing. You would literally just say nothing. You wouldn't give him any advice. You'd just be like, dude, it's doing so well now that just don't do anything. Don't screw up the process whatsoever.
I wouldn't even let myself see myself. No. Yeah. I wouldn't touch anything. This is perfect. The story, the journey, all of it's perfect. It's beautiful.
Damn, man. I might just end it there. Like dude, like me and Daniel are both like, dude, like that's just, you literally, this entire podcast, as far as I'm concerned, has been a weaving of a tapestry of your story. And anybody who's watching just got to like see that movie. I like facilitated a little bit and paused in certain sections because I wanted to know more about it, but that was so like how much. So Daniel, are we producing a movie on this guy's life? Like, what are we doing? The next step? Like, goddamn, bro. Like, I think we could get you in Hollywood.
You guys,
I think,
or at least
we should get to the writers of Gandhi, and then we need to do a parallel.
Yeah, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that this whole conversation, it's a story of, of how necessity drives action and community supports the progress, right? The one thing that I love about Munif is that he does something that I think some people will spend their entire lives looking to figure out how to accomplish, and that's he walks his own path. And I love and honor and respect the hell out of that, because it is the goal, right? We all have to walk out our own walk. And I appreciate the fact that I think like deep, and I could be wrong, but I think deeply internally, Munif knows that he has to walk this path on his own, right? There's going to be communities. He's not alone, but he's got to walk his own path. And I think you get to a point, right, where you know that sometimes people are going to be disappointed because you didn't do what they maybe wanted you to do or go down that road. But there is such a peace and a solidarity in knowing that I just got to walk my own walk and I got to figure it out. And I love that Munif has tapped into that, because I think it's a testament and an example to anybody who pays attention.
Thank you. Thank you. You both honor me. And a little bit about people being disappointed. Yes, people will be disappointed, but don't worry. They will forget by tomorrow.
Yep. Especially if they're walking their path.
100%. Guys, I'm gonna end it here because I already feel like I've been talking to the Buddha or something about his journey. So I'm gonna just let it be. I'm gonna end the podcast, guys. Real quick, if anybody wants to just be around this amazing human being, how do they reach you, Munif? How do the people get more of you?
Just follow me on Instagram. I like to share my story, and
it's at Munif Saza, like you got right there.
Yep, at Munif Saza.
Cool. What's your Twitch stream, bro? You were talking about it.
It's the takeaway. So it's like Twitch TV, twitch.tv/the_takeaway. But on my Instagram, I have like a button and it'll like show all these things. And you know what, man? Send me the raw footage of this and the YouTube, and I'll put this in that link. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great podcast. I want to share it on my page.
Dude, this is like, yeah, absolutely amazing. I love this so much. Guys, dude, I'll lie to you. Literally, people don't get it. That I think like people are like I feel like I kind of became a leader in sub 2 just because I kept asking questions over and over again in the Q&A, and people just saw me over and over again. So they're like, oh, I know that guy.
Yes.
And I feel like it's the same with this. It's almost the exact same thing, except I'm still asking questions. That's what I'm doing. And like, I'm pretty good at asking questions. I do it. I give myself that skill. And dude, all this podcast is I get people who are doper than me on. That's literally it. Like, honestly, Daniel, that's why you're on it, is like, and as what I think will become a co-host, is because I remember our podcast, I was like, there's something there. He would be better at this than me. So I need to leverage him in what I want to do. So I'm grateful for both of you guys. This has been super goddamn awesome. I got your Instagram in there. I got your Twitch in there. Is there any last words you guys want to say to the people?
Last words. I mean, no, there's no last. This is just next time, we'll talk.
Until next time.
Just the beginning.
The beginning.
I'll be back here. I want to be back. Maybe
you
later.
Will be, dude.
Yes, this will be great. So I will.
You 100% will, dude. Vegas.
I will be there. Clever investor.
You're gonna be in Vegas, right? You are too, right, Daniel?
Of course,
bro. I mean, let's do this, my guys. End of episode 16. Scorch the Fears. Thank you so much to all the people that have been here. You got a lot of people, dude. You got like we were like oscillating between 4 to 8 the entire time. So pretty solid crew. Thank you guys so much for being here. To my guest Munif, to Daniel, my about to be co-host, if he keeps coming on, and to all the viewers, I thank you guys so much for watching this stuff. It means a lot. Until next week at 5 p.m. PST, let's go. Scorch the Fears. We've done it again.
Later.